Hello and welcome to Talkin' Yanks Sharp Stats Edition. That's right, it's time to get smart. I'm here, Jake's here, and the queen of stats, Katie Sharp herself, is with us, coming to you live from the Roosevelt Studios in the Bronx. Katie, how are you doing?
Hey guys, here you go. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We are coming off a high of off the Wednesday win.
Of one win.
One win. And sadly, that represents a high for us at this point in the season. We'll take what we can get. We'll see how we're feeling in about maybe 8 hours or so. But yeah, I mean, this season's been crazy. It's pretty much been one of the craziest seasons, kind of that I think in the past few years in terms of the highs and the lows. And but that's really what you have to expect given the conditions and everything that's going on. So got to roll with the punches. The baseball, you get to go out there the next day and it's a whole new day. So that's where I'm at.
We talked about it. It's one win, but there's a lot of good things going on that, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, we couldn't even get two positive topics for Sharp Stats. We have two positive topics today. We'll be talking about Clint's offense. We'll be talking about Deivi and what he's been doing on the mound. And we do have a negative one, something on the splits offensively. Jake, how are you doing, though, before we get into it?
I'm good. Next step is going to be 3 positives. I'm feeling it. We'll see. Cole's supposed to face the O's tonight. If it gets rained out, potentially Cole Tank doubleheader. Either way, feeling good about it. Power plays. Yanks are about to kick it into gear. And as Katie noticed, pregame, Glasses Glaber came out. Glasses Jake is out. So we're changing the vibes. We're controlling the mechanism. And, I don't know. I just hope I hope so, because the Orioles, I had this realization today. The Orioles are coming up saying, hey, let's get 3 or 4 from the Yanks and jump them in the standings, and that
they've been looking good too.
Yeah,
they've won.
Their hitting is real.
They've won 4 out of their last 5, 5 out of their last 7, something like that.
Something like that. The Mets came back last night, so that was something. But I'm good, and we had some positive
5 of last 7.
Positive conversation options. Dude's getting going. Glasses Glaber, but I think we're starting out with kind of where we left off last episode.
We talked about Clint's defense last episode and how much it's improved. I think in this series against Toronto, we saw him make a lot of plays that kind of cemented that a little more, that his defense in right field has improved drastically from last year, which is fantastic. We want to talk about his offense a little bit because he's been looking good there, but we've seen him look good offensively before. Katie, my favorite little nugget you've ever given us on Sharp Stats is that Clint's swing is so fast, he misses breaking balls entirely, which actually helps him because he doesn't make weak contact with them. And that was like mind-blowing. You gave us that last year. What do we got on Clint's offense this year?
Well, there's a couple things, and that was a good point. I had not forgotten that. That is actually still true.
Okay. Yeah, that one's
he's
awesome.
The fact that he doesn't make contact on them is still true. He's actually one of the things that I did want to that I will point out is and there's 2 things really that I want to point out here. And the first one is kind of his plate discipline, and that relates to what you were talking about. And this is kind of the one, maybe the most impressive stat for Clint, because I think what a lot of the impression that people had with Clint is that he was kind of just a free swinger. That's what a lot of people tell me. And that is pretty much the opposite. And it's really manifested itself this year in the improvement in his walk rate. So last year, he had a walk rate of 6.5%, which is, way below average. And now he's at 15.6%, so nearly tripled his walk rate. And that 15.6% is fifth lowest. Fifth highest in the majors right now. And the more impressive thing is that improvement is the largest of about 375 players this year that had 240 plate appearances last year and at least 90 plate appearances this year. So kind of on the same playing time as Clint. So he has the largest improvement in walk rate of all of those guys. So I think that really shows, to me, shows a maturity. He's become a lot more of a mature hitter this year, and you can see it. I mean, we see him spit on those breaking balls, right? We see him spit on all those pitches outside of the zone. I think it's because of his confidence. Like, he knows that when he gets a pitch in the zone, he can hit it. He doesn't need to be chasing those pitches outside of the zone. He's not getting anxious or anything. So that has been probably the most impressive thing about Clint this year for me. Everybody loves to wow about his bat speed, but to me, it's that plate discipline. It's those walks that he's taking that he probably would not have taken last year.
He's got a 406 on base percentage right now, and I think even cooler is that he's started 24 games, and he only has 3 games where he has not reached base. So that's pretty awesome.
That's a big JOMBOY stat. The what are you contributing each game?
Each game.
Yep. The consistency. I think we've seen that.
That's good.
He's either. I was gonna say. I think it must be. I don't know how many games now where he's either gotten a hit or a walk at least. Right.
I just did the math on that. So he's got.
You did.
Where he's gotten on base twice, in a game. So 7 times he's gotten multiple hits in a game, which is interesting because he's got 7 games with a single hit as well. So if he gets a hit, it's pretty likely he gets another one in the game. How many times he's reached base twice? We got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 times he's reached base twice out of 24 games. It's pretty good. But what's really good is only 3 times he hasn't gotten to first base in the game he started out of 24. That's very good.
Contributing. And again, when you start dreaming about potential dream world conversations coming up when guys do get healthy and everything, it's Clint's defense, which we talked about last episode. If Judge were to get healthy and Stanton comes back, Clint's in left field. So just circling back on the defense from last episode, that would be pretty interesting. And the fact that we can pencil him in, we talked some Gardy and Talkin beforehand, and it's kind of stunk their performance this year, but every reason to believe in Clint all around right now, which is really cool, and that's why we've heard Brian Cashman had an almost near untouchable price tag on him come the trade deadline because he's looking like a 5-tool guy. And Katie, as you know, I either break down your numbers to make them easier for me to think about, or I'm the guy that brings the numbers to the analytics department and they're like, oh, these are great, and then they kind of throw them away and be like, these did nothing. Clint, last year, 69 games played, 246 plate appearances. He had 70 strikeouts and 16 walks. That was his whole year last year. This year, in 24 games, he has 15 walks and 28 strikeouts. So he had one more walk all of last season. And
you read my mind, Jake.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, that was actually one of those. I was about to pull out that stat, but you just did it.
That was I just did the Moneyball gif. Yes.
Nice.
Jonah Hill.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean it jumps out at the stat
amazing.
page. I mean when you see those numbers literally right on top of each other, it's pretty cool to see, and it's not like if you normally were to see that in a player's development, you'd be worried like, okay, does that mean the power's slacking off? Are they just taking more pitches in general, or what are they doing? I mean, it's up across the board, and it starts to make sense how people's baseball stories changes. I mean, Clint, from everything we heard, could have been had for peanuts at the deadline, if you will. Who knows what that actually means, but this year Clint looks like the 26-year-old 5-tool player that once made him a top 10 prospect in baseball. So, that eye. And again, if you want to go to Dream World, where would he potentially slot in the lineup if we had everyone healthy? And that's where, we wonder why the Yankees don't look like the Yankees. I mean, if everyone's healthy, does this Clint Frazier become a 7-hole guy, the guy that gets on almost every guy, and that's when it starts getting fun.
Well, I know that you're supposed to bring the numbers, Katie, but I have a couple more for you two.
We're
right,
bringing them
let's go.
today.
I did not realize this. Clint, since he got called back up on August 12th, has played every day. Now, he's missed 2 games he didn't start, but they were double headers, where he started at least one, but did not the other. So I didn't realize every single day. He hasn't been a bench player since he got called back up. And since August 30th, he's been the 4-hole hitter. We're going on 1, 2,
12.
3,
I think it's 12
4,
straight,
5,
right?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 games straight
Yeah.
with him in the 4-hole. So like some stability for Clint. 4-hole right field for 2 weeks now. He doesn't have to think.
Yeah,
That's
I think they're just penciling him in at this point. And just going back to what Jake was saying, that was actually the second point that I was going to make about the fact that he's been able to combine this improvement in his walks and his plate discipline with hitting the ball really hard and making really good contact. So his hard hit rate has gone from 36% last year to 52% this year. That's an elite mark, that 52%. And that improvement, that about 15 percentage point improvement, is the third largest in baseball, behind 2 guys that you might have heard of, Fernando Tatis Jr. and Corey Seager. So the fact that, and I think this might be the most impressive thing, the fact that he's been able to combine that discipline with making better contact. That's something that you don't usually find. You usually got to sacrifice something, like you said. If he's taking more walks, he's probably maybe not increasing his slugging as much, because he's just being a little bit too selective. Or if he's making better contact, a lot of times that means that he's hacking. So the fact that he can combine those two things, he's becoming a complete player. Especially combined with all the defense. So I'm fully on the Clint hype train right now. I'm sorry, but what I've seen so far from him this season has just been really good. It's been incredible, almost.
And you add Judge and Stan, and Clint slides down like Jake's saying. We get length.
Yep, length in the lineup, and that's something that we've really been missing this year. Really. Yeah. And we've said a lot about Clint over the past few years, and sometimes it gets frustrating on our end because there's times when we shouldn't be talking about Clint. Right now, he deserves to be talked about and in the right way, and everything. It's all come together. All the on-the-field stuff, all the off-field stuff. He's been great in the press conferences. Everything you've heard about Clint Frazier this year, dealing with the COVID and stuff. Like 10 out of 10 all around. And it stinks that we can't brag about it more, but when the Yankees were in that horrid stretch, still are, it's hard to highlight those things.
Yeah. I'm trying to make sense of his numbers versus breaking balls.
Okay.
Apparently he's getting very lucky.
Katie?
I have not. The only thing I noticed against him with breaking balls, and this was going back to your point about him, his ability to lay off pitches outside of the zone, is that he's actually decreased, I think, his whiff rate on breaking balls. Is that correct?
Jimmy?
It's at 33%, and it was at 42% last year.
Yeah, so that was really what I was noticing. Because we know that one of the things about Clint is that he doesn't chase. He's actually decreased his chase rate from 21% last year to 15% this year. Though both of those are well below the major league average. Better than the major league average. And I think that, one of the things with that is that he's also, I think, by not whiffing on those breaking balls, I think he's really improved his eye. He knows which pitches he can hit. So maybe he hasn't had the same results. But, I think that I think he's fine with the breaking balls.
No, his results are good. As expected, he's got an expected 190 batting average, but he's got a 290 batting average.
Okay, I see where you are. Yeah.
But I don't think this matters, really. It's
pretty small of a sample size. Yeah. When you're breaking, at this point, even at this point in the season, when you're breaking down like by pitch type, it can get into pretty small sample sizes. So kind of like the fastballs are really what you got to look at because that's what he's seeing the most. And all of his stats are pretty much in line, maybe even better than last year with the fastballs. So
let's not talk fastballs today. I don't.
Well,
I
I'll
don't have the heart
transition
for
you.
that.
I'll transition you right into the next topic, Katie. How does Clint do against lefties, and then how's the rest of the team do against lefties?
Well, Jimmy, it's not a pretty picture. And this is something that you don't really in recent years we really haven't seen with the Yankees. I think we talked a lot about, if you guys remember last year, we talked a lot about the Yankees being split proof. And that was kind of our term for them being able to hit righties and lefties, the same. It didn't matter what a team could bring in. They could try and bring in lefties at the end of the game, or they bring in, their power righties or whatever. It didn't matter because the Yankees could hit both of them. And that was because a lot of it was because our right-handed batters were really good against righties, and our left-handed batters actually performed well against lefties. And that's like and those were a lot of the fill-in guys. That was like the Fords. That was the Talkmans. Even Gardy. Well, no, Gardy was pretty bad against lefties last year. But this year, it's been basically the opposite. And we're just going to focus on what they've done versus lefties, with the caveat that obviously they have faced a lot more right-handed pitchers. That's just the nature of the game. But the numbers are pretty ugly. And I'm going to break it down with left-handed batters versus left-handed pitchers this year for the Yankees. And I mean, these things are hard to fathom. They are 3 for 55 with 22 strikeouts and 2 walks.
So this is Wade, Talkman, Gardy, Ford.
Yep. Guess who has the 3 hits,
those
Jake?
4 guys.
Wade
has 0 of the hits.
No.
And
I think I know.
Talkman has 2 of them.
Okay, and then Gardy
Gardy has 1.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But I mean,
all singles.
Yeah, it's all singles. The 22 strikeouts is terrible. And it's just, that was a thing that the Yankees really haven't experienced this, I think, in recent years. And there's only so much that the right-handed batters can help, because at this point we are forced to play like at least 2 of those 4 guys, right? Right? We are pretty much forced to play like a Ford, a Talkman, a Gardy, or a Wade, at like 2 or 3 of those guys. And so this is obviously the worst performance by any team in the majors this year. And it's actually the worst performance. I mean, not surprising, but it's the worst performance. It would be the worst performance by any Yankee team in their history. It's pretty, and I'm not saying that this is a death knell, that this is going to like drag their season down. Because like I said, the majority of the people you're going to face are righties. And they did get to Ryu this week. We talked about that. They did rough him up, who's a very good lefty, but that kind of was an outlier. If you kind of go through a lot of the pitchers that they faced, they got spanked by Fried. They got done by Blake Snell. Had one really good start, one not so good start against them. And then there's a bunch of lefty relievers that just kind of roll in there and just shut down the Yankees. And so, I mean, it is a discussion I think to be had, because what's looming? What's looming for the rest of the season and in the playoffs, and how much of this can be helped by some other guys getting hot. We've mentioned Glaber. His numbers versus lefties are not good this year. Clint's numbers versus lefties actually are not great this year.
We really need Judge and Stanton to come back.
Yeah, we do. And like I said, it's a small sample at this point, but I think it is something that we it's something that we have to watch because it hasn't been a problem for the Yankees in the past.
Easily. And I mean, as of last year, I had a versus lefties theory that we should dominate. I mean, and that was going back to having Uncle Edwin in the lineup, the big guys from this year that we're hoping to have back. And I do think Glaber will help career-wise. His OPS is a little higher versus lefties.
Yeah.
So that's a step in the right direction. But it just ties into kind of what's been this overlooming conversation of just like so many dead at-bats. Like, just so many wasted at-bats. And yes, the lefty on lefties should get blamed. But like you mentioned, Clint's numbers versus lefties aren't good. Like, the whole body of work, just kind of bizarre.
Stan and Judge do crush lefties, so you're missing.
Yeah, they do.
You put those guys in, and then we don't have Wade or whoever. I don't know how it works out. Those
I
guys
don't know
are
how it
pretty
would work
good,
out.
so could use those back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and even when you include the right-handed batters, their OPS plus, their split OPS plus against left-handed pitchers, this is all of the Yankees, is an 89, which is 11% below league average. So that's including all of our righties in there too. And I just kind of looked at like some recent years when we had just a below average OPS against left-handed pitchers. And it's not pretty. I mean, it was 2016, 2013, 2008, like 1990. Like those are not fun seasons. They didn't end fun. And I'm not saying that the Yankees are doomed and they're going to miss the playoffs, or whatever because of that historical precedent. But it is just something that has been that has been associated with below average Yankee teams in the past. And so I think that's kind of one of my bigger concerns. But I think that, I think there is, as you guys said, there is a chance for this to turn around. It's still a small sample. And we know that we have two big guns, kind of just hanging out there, doing their directional running in the stadium before games at this point.
Yeah, only other stat I have, which maybe is a preview for tonight, and by the time a lot of you listen to this episode, it'll already happen. Tyro, it's a very small sample, but a lot of his hits are off lefties. He has in over 300 versus lefties this year in 19 at-bats, so I wonder if he draws the start tonight instead of Waiter against Keegan Aiken. Again, it's a small sample, and
he's one of the guys. He's one of the lefties that had dominated us, obviously in the past.
Right.
So. Remember?
Right.
We all remember that one.
I hope that script changes, but yeah, those two monsters in the middle of the lineup would help. But it's also I don't know, going through just splits through my memories. Andujar has better splits versus righties, if I remember correctly, just career-wise. Mm-hmm. And Gary, who's lost versus anybody right now, but he's also better in his career versus righties. So we'll see if any of how those two factor down the stretch. But it'd be nice to shake that boogaboo a little bit. So if the playoffs do get here and we have to face a couple of lefties, that the report isn't.
If Judge and Stan come back,
lefties,
if Judge and Stan come back and are healthy, then I think we're okay. Yeah. But if not, you'd also like some other guys to pick it up.
Yeah,
you like Clint, Andujar, Glaber. You'd like those three to get it going. Gio's not good versus lefties either.
Yeah.
DJ and Voit are all right.
Glaber's about to have a huge night too. So
Voigt's BABIP is really low, but everything else is fine. Just off the top of my head.
Yeah. Of course.
Jake, what defensive position has the highest on-base percentage for the Yankees?
Defensive position has the highest on-base percentage for the Yankees.
Yeah. If Jake gets this correct,
I'd lean right field.
You'd lean right field.
Judge and Clint.
Second place.
Yeah?
Yeah. Close.
First? I don't know.
First place is pinch hitters.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. That's not a position.
Illegal.
Well, you talked to Baseball Reference about that.
Illegal.
379 on base percentage for pinch hitters.
Illegal. Your boy Ford. That's what you want to pinch hitting more.
I don't. Right field is the correct answer. 377. You almost got.
Half point.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Oh,
Gotta
lineup
get better.
just came out. Let's see if my second base prediction was right. Estrada.
At second?
So,
Bang.
Nice.
Bang.
Cool. Speaking of short guys, Estrada, Deivi, Katie, I told you it's a small sample size, but I'm hungry to hear more about Deivi. I think he won over the hearts of Yankees Nation. Jake bought the same exact outfit he wore in his postgame because Jake wants to be just like him.
ooh.
Yeah.
Mound presence and moxie. But what is he actually doing? Yesterday we saw him switch from the curve and go to the changeup and the slider because the curve wasn't really working. And it's things like that impress me, more, that he has the ability to switch in game. So I asked you some questions. I asked you, is he getting his first pitch strike? What pitch is he getting all of his strikeouts with, or his outs? What kind of contact is he inducing? So I don't know where you want to go with it, but what do we got on Deivi?
Yeah, everything you said is exactly true. Let's start off with those adjustments because that, to me, kind of was the biggest. That's something you don't often see with a 21-year-old. And especially a 21-year-old making his third career major league start. And that, to me, may be the first or second, most impressive thing about him. So you mentioned that in his third start, that was on Wednesday, that, he didn't really have that feel for his curveball early, so he went to his changeup, and he then mixed in some sliders late. And so I have some pretty interesting numbers to kind of back that up and just to kind of put it into perspective here. So he threw 16 changeups on Wednesday, and in his first two starts combined, he had only thrown 21. So that kind of really became his pitch against lefties. It was either a changeup or a fastball against lefties in this start, whereas in his first couple starts, it was changeup, curveball, fastball. He pretty much mixed them all against lefties. The other thing that was really impressive was that slider. We hadn't seen that slider in his first two starts. He threw 7 of those, and he threw 9 of them on Wednesday. And more than, I think it was 6 of those 9 came in the final 3 innings. So he was really, and like I said, he didn't have that curveball. The curveball got, I think, 1 swing and miss the entire game. So he knew that he didn't have that. He just couldn't get them to swing. He couldn't locate it in the right places. So then he just went to his slider. And I like that slider because it's sort of that in-between pitch between the fastball and the curveball. It's in the 80s, whereas the curveball is the 70, the high 70s, and then the fastball, obviously, the low 90s. But for him to have command of 4 pitches like that, and the confidence to throw those pitches at any point in the game, that really shows, not only an ability to make adjustments, but like I was saying with Clint, that shows a real maturity in his pitching. And so I think that I want to see what else he can do. Maybe he doesn't have what happens when he doesn't have his fastball. What does he do then at that point? So I think this is definitely something to watch. But to me, that ability to make those adjustments and to have the confidence in those 4 pitches was really impressive from what I saw from him in his third start.
Yeah, the ability to change is cool, and he only throws his slider so far to right-handed hitters.
Yep.
And I believe, I'm looking at it, it's got a 60% whiff rate, tiny, small sample size, and maybe they just don't know it's coming. But that's cool. What's he getting beat on the most? Like, he's given up a couple home runs, right? Is that all fastballs?
Yeah, I didn't check on what he's getting beat on, but the other thing that I really wanted to talk about, and this kind of relates to his fastballs, is the fact this is what I think might be the most important thing, is that he's able to be really aggressive with hitters and attack them in the zone, and that's where you see that command. You see the walk stat, the fact that he has walked 2 batters in, I think it's 17 and 2/3 innings, and those two walks came in one of the games. So he's had 2 walk-free games. And this is for a guy that, remember, he averaged 4.5 walks per 9 innings in the minors last year. And I put this stat out on Twitter, is that in his entire minor league career, he had 3 games with at least 6 innings pitched and 0 walks. And he's already had 2 of those in the major leagues so far. So in this command, I think what it really kind of where it manifests itself is the fact that he's able to attack hitters with his fastball in the zone. And because that fastball is so deceptive, we talked about that last week. And then he's able to combine that with these 3+ secondary pitches that he has command of, that he feels like he can throw in any count. And so that ability really to change those eye levels during the at-bat, that has been probably, I think, the driver of why he's been able to avoid all of these walks. And he's really able to control the at-bat is what I'm trying to get at by being so aggressive. And just some numbers to kind of to put that into perspective. Like you said, his first pitch strike percentage, 64%, I believe, which is above the major league average. He's throwing 28% of his pitches in the heart of the zone. So that's like that, not the middle, but just like really in the heart of the zone. And that's above the major league average. The catch there is that when hitters put that ball in play in the heart of the zone, they're hitting 226 with a 355 slugging percentage. Those are pitches that people should crush. The major league average is 313 batting average and 585 slugging percentage on pitches in the heart of the zone. And I think that really, why he's able to do that is because that fastball we talked about, it is so deceptive. It gets 3 inches of rise better above average compared to a major league fastball, which ranks, where do I have that rank? I think that's a 7th best in the majors right now.
Damn.
Wow.
His fastball.
All right. Well,
rise.
this is very exciting. So I have to put some water on my excitement fire personally.
Okay, I'll bring it back up after.
Got to see him go through the rotate. Got to see him go through teams twice. That's my rule for all young pitchers, because this is a pitcher. He doesn't do Nestor Cortez, Johnny Cueto, deceptive Marcus Stroman, stop and starts, but he hides the fastball really well. So I got to imagine seeing him the second time, knowing where to pick it up and where to try to look for it. A hitter will have a little bit more of an edge. Not an edge, but Davey's got the edge right now because they have no
Hitters like seeing pitchers more.
Yeah. And the walk stuff, it's actually scares me how little he's walking in comparison to what it used to be. It's so night and day that I feel like shoe's going to drop and we're going to see.
Well, we talked last week about how he moved his position on the mound.
Oh,
Jimmy
remember?
doesn't fully believe in that, though.
No, I did when I
Okay.
did the crossover.
Okay, Jimmy did the crossover.
Yeah.
He fully believes.
So I am
believe in it
actually
now.
I'm bought in on that because I think that, I mean, the fact, what did we say, it was like a 1.5 feet or something? That is a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I think that has to have had an impact. And just some kind of fun butter knife stats
Yes.
here. Some small sample stuff. You talked about him seeing guys more than once. Well, 3rd time through the order, 2 for 15, three strikeouts. That's a 133 batting average and a 188 on base percentage. So 3rd time through the order, he's getting it done. Just a couple other things. We talk about his poise with runners on base. They have a 179 batting average against him, a 233 on base percentage. And with runners in scoring position, they're 1 for 9. These are all just some fun, small sample stats. But it's just, I mean, you see it, though. You see his poise, you see his confidence, and it's showing up so far. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm psyched. I love watching him pitch. I mean, how can you not love watching this guy just get out there and just throw it down? He's perfect for this team, I think.
Yeah, I bought a newspaper today for maybe the first day in my life because it had Deivi on the back page, and I was like, I want that. Yeah, if you really get in daydream mode, and if the Yankees can turn something around, and this team needed something, and was it a kind of magical 21-year-old that can do a lot of stuff on the mound. Maybe it'd be a nice party trick to bring along with also those big guys we're hoping to get off the IL. Something Jimmy noted the other day, and I'll give him credit. We talk about Deivi's performance yesterday, and he's known for the curveball. He goes to that changeup more. Someone who probably deserves a piece of that is Gary Sanchez, who was probably working hand in hand with Deivi to kind of audible the pitch mix a little bit.
Or Matt Blake, the people that will never get credit ever.
Sure,
probably helped with that situation.
And yeah, I think the control stuff, it's definitely interesting. I think there's, moving on the mound definitely added something. I think by performing well, I think there might even be a little placebo effect boost from that as well, for a guy that rides on confidence. And he just looks so composed out there. So I've built my whole life for this shot, and I'm going to perform, and the team needs me to perform. And do you need a third starter right now? I can do it. And he's just been awesome. A couple of those bend / don't break at bats last night, or you kind of expect the worst. Grichuk is working him. He's following everything off. He seems to be on it, and he goes to a wicked changeup. That, again, he just trusts. He trusts with a lot of young pitchers probably at that point of the at-bat would just throw something outside the zone. He throws a changeup almost middle, but it's executed perfectly that Grichuk swings right over it. And, he's a big-time prospect where the concern was his size, which he's, as of right now, isn't affecting anything. And the other concern was his control, which has looked really good. So, be all in on Deivi. Why not? Dream, go crazy. Let's do it.
Dream, go crazy.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Mock turtle next season.
All right. Do we have any fun stat of the day?
Oh, my last thing on Deivi that I'm interested in, and maybe this will be next check-in before we get to the sharp stat of the day. With the fastball, the late rise is cool, and you do see its effect on hitters, and we'll see if it does come back his second time around. I'm curious if he does mix it up, because sometimes you see that 91 fastball, and you're like, oh no. But he also hit 95 last night, I believe. So, we talk about it being a deceptive fastball, but 95 with some rise, that's a real fastball.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we don't really even know, I think, how much he can dial it up. Because what I've noticed is that he actually dials it up in the later innings. He'll start off at the 91, 92s, and then kind of works his way up to 93, 94. So maybe his average fastball is not going to be what his real potential is. So I don't really think we've seen the best of his fastball at this point, actually.
I love that. That's how you get into the sharp stat of the week.
That's exciting. Do we have a sharp stat of the week?
Well, I wasn't planning on doing a positive one.
Okay.
So I kind of was just going to give the Talkman update.
Okay.
I mean, it's getting worse, I would have to say. Because now he's up to 79 fastballs that he's seen in the heart of the zone.
No.
And he's swung at 64 of them. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But he's fouled off 41 of those 64 swings. That's two. I mean, I'm doing the math. I think that's 2/3 of the time that he's fouling off a fastball in the middle of the zone. He has 10 whiffs, and he put 13 of those in play. And unfortunately, he still has a 0 in that hit column. This is going to be our watch this has to be our watch for the rest of the season.
Well, the good news is, after starting the good news is, after Talkman from August 20th to September 2nd, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He started 9 games in a row. Since then, he's only started 3 of the last 8.
Okay. So I think
Can't believe he started 9 in a row.
Yeah.
Kind
I
of
think
makes
they were
sense
still
why
on
we were
that.
so bad
Yeah.
down in the dumps.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Talkin's tough. Well, he's not in the lineup tonight,
All right.
so that's good. But I have a lot of other problems.
Yeah. We'll be doing that on the pregame show in a second. I don't know, Katie. Any other? Maybe they don't have to be analytically driven. Any Katie Sharp takes we need? Anything you're vibing from this team?
Well, I was thinking last night, I really need to see 2 wins in a row. One win really is not going to do much for me because, do we have 22 wins on the season at this point, or 23? I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So we have strung together a couple wins in a row at some point. And I would just really, really like to see that before I can smile after a game. Because it was weird. After Wednesday night's game, I kind of had that smirk on my face.
Yeah.
When you get that feeling. It wasn't a full smile. It wasn't a frown. It was just that smirk. Yep. Yeah, Monday was a low. Monday, I think, was rock bottom. And especially with the Navy game. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but they got absolutely crushed. So I had 2 screens going on, and they were both terrible screens to be looking at.
That's the sports fan nightmare.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Don't know where to look at a certain point.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to look at. I think
That's
my
when you
phone
pivot
had
to the Australian dramas.
Australian dramas, yes.
Exactly. Yeah, that sounds good to me. But yeah, so I want to see 2 in a row. So maybe when everybody's listening to this on Friday night, I'll be a full smile at that point.
I like that.
It sounds nice to me. All right. Well, thank you very much as always, Katie. Great stuff, making us smarter fans. Clint's good, both sides of the ball. Yankees need to get better versus lefties, and Deivi has dazzled.
Yeah. Tweet at Katie Sharp. Always tweet at Katie Sharp, the best. Put a smiley face emoticon at the end of the tweet.
Oh, wow.
After the back-to-back wins.
Wow, okay.
I hope.
I don't know, because the lineup today blows.
Yeah, dude. Ugh.
It's a bad lineup. All right. Go Yanks. Tell them, Grams.
Go Yankees.